Hello and welcome to Wrestling with Real Estate, where we look to chokeslam all your real estate problems. I'm your host, former WWE wrestler and now Cirque du Soleil performer, and of course, multifamily real estate investor, Barri Griffiths. Now, we're joined again today by Grant Warrington. Hey, Grant, how you doing, man?
Hey, Barry, doing great. Thanks for having me, buddy.
Yeah, happy to have you. We had a great first interview. So if anyone hasn't checked that out, they need to go back and listen to some cool stories and some interesting properties and some interesting ways that you've done stuff, and a lot of success that you had as well. So it's a great first interview. So I recommend everyone goes back and listens to that. But in that first one, we talked about an 8-unit deal that you've recently closed on, and that was a little bit of a whirlwind story in itself, and a lot of stuff that went into that. So we're going to really dive into that because I really enjoy diving into stuff and getting into the details of stuff and hearing a lot more. So first and foremost, before we do that, do you want to give us a quick intro into Grant Warrington and what you've been doing, just for anyone who didn't catch that first interview?
Yeah, no problem. So again, Grant Warrington, I'm in Southeast Michigan. I'm a realtor here. And my wife and I, 50% partners on everything we do. And we own 41 units, started with single families and very little money, ran out of money quick, and transitioned over apartments. Now we own 3 apartment buildings and a duplex, actually. And so we're at 41 units right now.
Very cool. You said this on the first show, and I've got to ask you said 50-50, but are you sure she's not 51 and you're 49?
Yeah, no, that's more like it. You know what? You're right. I would have to tell the truth, but
yeah. She has the majority stake in the company.
Yes.
Well, tell us about this 8-unit then. Tell us all about it. How did you find it? What did you like about it? Tell us all the good stuff about it.
Yeah, so this was a unique one. So like I said previously, we made the decision to go to apartments. So we bought an apartment in 2019, we bought an apartment in 2020, and now 2021 rolled around. And we made a decision. What happened was we owned a rental, a single family home, and we had to replace a drain, the tap on the drain where it taps out into the city, main drain. And it ended up being $4,000. And we're like, man, we got debt on all our properties, and it wipes you out for years. You know what I mean? An expense like that. A year, 2 years, it depends on what your cash flow is, right? So we're like, we really don't, we just aren't in love with owning single family homes anymore. We just kind of had enough of it. It's 2021. The market is on fire. If you don't know the real estate market's on fire, then I don't know, what you've been watching, but it's on fire. So we're like, you know what? Why don't we sell these single family houses? We'll keep our duplex. We'll keep the apartments. We'll sell the single families. We'll buy an apartment with it. So we thought, yeah, that's a great idea. So we ended up selling 3 of them quick, selling them for just great prices. And we put 3 of them into a 1031 exchange. And we thought, that's great. And if you're not familiar with the 1031 exchange, you can't touch the funds. The funds go into the exchange. The exchange is a third party. And at closing, those funds don't come to you. They go right into the 1031. And I think it costs us $2,000 to do that, and maybe $500 each additional house we put into the one exchange. So we have 45 days now to identify our next property, and then we have 180 days to close on it. So I thought, 45 days, no big deal. We'll be able to find something, right? So maybe a week goes by, and I'm looking, but maybe not as much as I should be. And the clock gets a little starts, you start losing days quicker and quicker. And, we were going to have to pay, our CPA said like $70,000 in capital gains. And we're like, we made a decision. If we have to do that, that's life. That's what we have to do. We're not going to kill ourselves if that's what happens, but let's fight like hell not to have to do it. Right. So what I did was I go on Google. I look for apartment buildings on Google Maps. We're in a certain area. We invest in this area because it's close and we self-manage. So I can't self-manage an hour away effectively. So I'll go on Google Maps and I'll look for bigger buildings, and that's really, and then I write down addresses. That's how I'll find buildings. And then I will search public records, business entity search to find the owner. If in public record, if it's a business, I'll go to business entity search through the state of Michigan. I'll find who owns the business, and then I'll Google them and I'll try to find the owner's cell phone number, and then I'll call them. And, when someone reaches out to you and calls you and says, hey, I know you own that building in Trenton. I live in Trenton, and I also own an apartment building in Trenton, and I own one in Rockwood, the city over. Like the people in this area know the cities, right? People aren't hanging up on you. They're like, oh, really? Oh, you do? Yeah. So we're the same. We have that in common. And I let them know right off the bat. I live here. I live here. I own an apartment here, and that kind of gets a connection and it gets people interested. And I just would tell the people, hey, we're doing a 1031 exchange. We have the funds. We just need something to buy. And I was just upfront with everyone. And I would tell them, hey, we're looking to buy your apartment. You're probably not interested in selling, but if you are, we're looking to buy. And I'm on a timeline, so we're gonna close. This thing's gonna close. And I probably reached out to, I'm not kidding you, I'd say 40 owners in that 45-day. This is all off market. 40 owners got their cell phone numbers. So I have their cell phone numbers, made a connection with them. Nobody was interested in selling. One owner, I'll come back to him. He told me I just sold a month ago. A couple owners had told me that, but one in particular said, I just sold a month ago. I thought, okay, well, we missed you, but we weren't in a position to buy a month ago. So it is what it is. You can't beat yourself up over it. So we said, okay, well, that's fine. Well, now it's day 43 and we're sweating. I mean, 70 grand, we're sweating over it. Right. So it's day 43. All of a sudden, on the MLS, I watch it, daily, and I get alerts. And I saw an 8-unit apartment building come up on the MLS, and I couldn't believe it on the MLS. So I called them immediately, and it's right in my area, right by my house, right by our house. And I said, hey, we want to buy it. And they were asking $625. And he said, you know what? And this is a funny part. He said, I actually know someone, a realtor in your office, and she told me about you. So I know who you were. I know who you are. So the realtor actually knew me. He knew I was an investor because the other realtor had talked about me, which is the power of people knowing who you are. So he knew I did what I said. He knew that if we got involved in this deal, we were going to buy it. And so he was interested in working with us. And I said, listen, sight unseen, we own 2 buildings in this area. I don't need to walk the property. I had already known the building. I didn't tell him that, but I had already walked the building. I had already seen it. I knew it well because it was on my list. So I was very familiar with it. But like I said, we already had two buildings in that area. I knew expenses. I knew what rents were. I knew everything. And I knew the building's probably in bad shape because just about everyone we buy is, and just about everybody that's selling them nowadays, they're in bad shape, especially mom and pops. And again, I don't want to stereotype, but it's what it seems to me. So I said, sight unseen, I'm going to send you a purchase agreement. I'll send you a purchase agreement for $625,000. That's what you're asking. He said, great, get it over to me. I had to go show a house. So I said, listen, can you wait? I got to go show a house and I'll be back. He said, yeah, go show the house and then get it back to me. 4 hours later, I had it locked up. I had it under contract, but here's what I had to do. I said, hey, I'm getting ready to send you the purchase agreement. He said, hang on a second. He actually wants more. The seller wants more. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is day 43. I need this deal. I said, well, how much more does he want? And I knew this was going to get into a bidding war the longer this is on the MLS. I needed to avoid that. I said, how much more does he want? He said, he wants $640,000. I said, all right, listen, it won't appraise. It's not going to appraise. 625 is a stretch to appraise. I giving you 640, and he's like, he doesn't care. He wants 640. I don't know where that number came from, but that's what he wants. I said, I'll tell you what, my commission's $18,000 on this. I'll give him, not the realtor. I said, not you, but I will give him, the seller, my commission of $18,000. I said, can you run that by him? And he came back and said, you know what? Yeah, he's willing to do that. I said, okay, great. So sight unseen, we drew it up. Now we had, an inspection contingency in there and everything. But, I told him it's a 1031. We're going to close on this. And that's how we found it. That's how we were able to wrap it up. Sight unseen, day one in 4 hours, get it off the MLS. And he, because he told me, he's like, Grant, my phone is blowing up. And I'm like, I know, I know, man. So fortunately, that's what happened. And that's how we were able to wrap it up.
What a crazy, crazy story. You must have been sweating bullets at that point. 2 days left to try and identify something. And the thing with the 1031 that's kind of worrying, I'm going through it myself right now, is even if you identify 3 properties, doesn't mean that you're going to close. And the way it works for people who don't understand is, and I'm not a CPA and I'm not a tax guy or anything like that, is, but to my full understanding is that those 3 properties that you identify, you have to close on those 3 properties. It can't be a different one. You have to be, you are in those 45 days after you've sold your property, you have to identify 3 properties and you can only close on one. You can close on all 3 of them if you want, but you have to have 3 identified and you can only close on one of them. So in this current market, you almost have to have it under contract. You can't just identify it and be like, okay, maybe I can, maybe I can put this under contract. No, they're going to be gone. So you need to, essentially in that 45 days, have it under contract or close to it, right? Because otherwise you can assume that these properties in this hot market are going to go like hotcakes and they're going to be gone. But forget the 180 days that you have to close, that might take you with financing and whatnot. But in terms of getting into contract after that, forget it, it's going to be gone.
Yeah. And if you identify and you do not purchase one of those, you don't get your money until the 180 days expires. So to us now, if we don't close, we're out of the game for 180 days. And that was huge to us. So the problem was what we were looking at is, if we identify, like you were talking about, if we identify 3 properties and we don't close on one, what happens is we don't get our funds until that 180 days expire. So that's the problem. You don't want to just throw 3 random properties out there. You better be in a good position to close on one of them, or your funds are going to be tied up. And we wanted to move forward. We wanted to buy something, so we couldn't afford our funds to be tied up. Now, if you don't identify, if you say, you know what, we can't find anything, we're not going to identify a property, then you'll get your funds back and you don't have to go full term. But again, talk to a professional about that. Don't just take my word for it. But
yeah. Neither of us are CPAs. It's not tax or legal advice. Just giving that disclaimer out there. But this is why I do this podcast. I didn't realize that. I didn't know that little caveat there. So that's good to know as I'm doing a 1031 myself. That unless I think I'm going to close on one of these 3 properties, I just don't want to throw 3 properties in there and have my money tied up. It's rather better don't identify anything and then you get that money back. So that's a good point. What was it about this property that you liked then? What, outside of having to do a 1031, what, and in an area that you liked, was it the rent below market? Was there, room to improve operational efficiencies? What was the deal?
Yeah. First and foremost, availability. It was available. Okay. So in this market, that was first and foremost. Second thing, average rents were $712, right? These are 2 bedrooms in my market, my neighborhood, it's a couple miles from my house. Average rent $712. So just to give you an idea of how low that is, there's single people living in 2-bedroom apartments. So really, people don't do that is because rent's so high. Like one person will live in a 1-bedroom apartment. Here, there's single people living in 2 bedrooms. One's like their office or spare room, and the other one's not. Rent should be, if these were rehab, we're looking at the rents be $1,000. But they're, like I said, $712. So some we're paying $650, and we're getting. Now, keep in mind, 3/4 of a mile away, our 1-bedrooms our first apartment building is getting $800 for our 1-bedrooms. and these people are paying like 650 for 2 bedrooms. So they're low. So the other thing though, they're low because it's the beautiful trade-off of we'll keep the rents low and we won't fix anything, right? So that's the problem. And that's what you know, if you self-manage, you need to be prepared for that. But we knew there's a ton of meat on the bone. So when we went into this, you know, it wasn't really making a lot of money. So we really had to pitch it to the bank, but the bank knows us. We have a track record. You know, we use a commercial mortgage broker, and he knows us well. He pitched us to the bank, and we really had that advantage in our pro forma. And we just showed them, you know, hey, here's what the other apartment buildings around us in this area are doing, and here's what this building's doing. So they were like, yeah, we see what you're doing. So with our track record, they didn't have any problem. We were also putting 36% down. That was huge because of the 1031. So we put $225,000 down, or 220 down on it. So that was huge. That came into play because what happened was we spent, you know, 625. I told you I was worried about the appraisal. The appraisal came back at 600,000. So we're overpaying by $25,000 right off the bat. We knew it. We knew we were going to get in that situation. The appraiser wrote right on there, this is a 1031 exchange. He wrote on the appraisal. Most 1031 exchanges, buyers do overpay. This is normal. So the bank understood that. Again, we're putting 30, I think I said 33, 36% down on it. So what did it matter? The bank's like, yeah, that's fine, whatever. It's not going to make that big of a difference. The beautiful thing, you know, it appraised for 600. 2 months later, it's next month, I believe, we increased everyone's rent to 850 across the board. Like I said, these rents should be 1,000, right? 950 is conservatively what we pitched it to the bank at, because we always want to be conservative. So we feel we're raising to 850. We feel that's fair. It's not overboard. We're not going, these aren't in the best shape of units. So 850 is fair. We feel to the tenants. What that does is with that cap rate was 6.5%. I think the appraisal was, I think with that cap rate, it brings the value of the building now up to $703,000 right in there. So we added $100,000 in value by raising those rents right off the bat, which is huge.
In the space of how long were you able to do that?
2 months, I think.
Wow.
Yeah.
So in 2 months' time, by raising the rents, you were able to increase the value. And for people who don't understand, multifamily apartment complexes are valued on the income approach. So it's the income minus the expenses that gives you what they call the net operating income, and that is used to derive the value. It's divided by a cap rate, which is usually decided by the market, and that gives you the value. So if you're able to increase rent, you're increasing that net operating income, and you're increasing value. You're forcing that appreciation. Doesn't matter what anything else is doing around you for the most part. If you're able to increase that rent and increase that income, you increase the value. And just think about that. In 2 months' time, you're able to increase the value of a property $100,000. That just by your own hard work and operations. That's pretty amazing. So that's the power of apartments and multifamily for you there.
And you can't do that with single family homes. That was the other bigger that I didn't touch on, but that was the other deciding factor that we were like, you're basically whatever your market's doing, the homes in your area are doing, that's what your home's going to comp at. That's what it's going to be worth. So these, our first apartment building, we pushed those rents 500,000 or pushed the value 500,000 in 16 months. It's huge. It's really huge.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. Yeah, it's just really cool about it. Looking back on it worked out right, with everything with the 1031. But doing that 1031, if you went back and talked to yourself back in that time, what would you have done differently? How would you have handled things? What would you have done to maybe have less stress and to find even a better deal maybe?
I think I would have. Started a little sooner and maybe the first week I didn't start calling people. I thought I had 45 days. I would have started a little sooner. I would have reached out a little more. The funny thing is, this owner that we bought this 8 unit off of, Well, in the previous interview, and I people should go back and listen to that. The previous one we just did, um, I told you, I mentioned that I called an owner and he said, "Hey, you missed it. I sold it a month ago." Right? That was this apartment building. He had sold it a month ago, and unfortunately, I think he might have sold it for 350, 400,000. I believe the next guy that bought it only owned it for a couple of months and flipped it to us for 625.
Oh wow. Oh wow,
Yeah.
well, crazy is that? So the very guy that you spoke to, and about the very apartment complex that you own now, sold it to someone else a few months earlier for
Yeah.
two,
We
300
missed it.
grand. Yeah.
And he was on my list. I called him. It's just we weren't ready at that point to buy it. So I mean, it's like, I wish we could have. If I'd only called him sooner, but we didn't have the money. We weren't in a position to buy it. So it is what it is. The funny thing is, that guy's actually a tenant. The old owner's actually a tenant in the building, so we have to deal with him. He wasn't very happy. This was a tough turn, and I want people to realize that too. I like to be honest, because we self-manage. We're in that space where we're still hitting it hard, struggling, swinging for the fences, just like everybody else out there that's bought a couple of units and goes, well, what now? You know, what we do is we self-manage. So when we go in there and have to raise rents and do all these things, it's easy to write down a pro forma on a piece of paper. And it's easy to say, well, I'm gonna push the rents, this, that, whatever. If you're self-managing and it's you in there dealing with the tenants, you need to keep that in mind, because you're gonna have to fight with them. Not fight, but I mean, it turns into they're not happy, right? So this was one of our toughest buildings. We had some minor vandalism, still kind of an ongoing thing. Tenants just furious with us. The tenants here, tenants feel that you're coming into their home. You're the invader, right? You're the outside person. They don't care that you're the management company or you own the building. They don't care about any of that. This is where they live and you're the new person. So what some of the tenants here were doing was they would have a bonfire. This is an apartment building. They'd have a bonfire right like in the parking lot. There's a little slab. They'd have a bonfire. They'd have barbecues. They prop the door open because they said they get drunk and they forget their keys, so they prop it open so everybody can come in and out. They throw parties, and everybody can come in and out of the building, use their bathroom. And to us, that's not, you can't have bonfires. Barbecue grills, we can't allow that. And it's just right off the bat, it was a fight. It was a struggle. Because this is how they've been doing it for years. The one tenant lived there for 22 years that did this, the bonfires so it was tough. They had just moved out, because we increased the rent. I don't think their rent was like 640 or 650. So they decided to leave, which is fine. But yeah, that's kind of what we were facing here. So this one, and like I said, the owner's in one, we have another resident, that a lot of things you'll face is everyone wants to tell you how nothing's been done over the years on these buildings, right? If you're self-managing, you're going to see that. And it's truth. Nothing's ever been done. But people don't also want a rent increase. So, I'd have people call me and say, why are you increasing my rent? And we'd say, well, we got to do the parking lot. We got to, fix the roof. We got to do the common area carpeting is destroyed. And he says, literally, I spend 1% of my time in that area. What do I care about all that? And I said, well, that's fine. I understand that. But the thing is, doesn't your drain leaks, right? Your bathroom drain. Yeah. Your air conditioner doesn't work. Yeah. We're going to fix your drain. We're going to fix your air conditioner unit. We did those in like day 1 or 2, got those fixed for him. And he's like, oh, okay, I see. And then I also told him, listen, those are, whether you spend time there or not, those are big parts of the building. The building has to be in a certain position to function. The building has to be profitable. That's why we had to increase rents, because it was not profitable. And that's why, and I tell them, nothing's ever been fixed, right, in your property? No one's ever done anything. Well, that's why. The rents were so low that no one ever fixed anything. They didn't have the money to do it. Now we need to increase rent so we can really make this a place you're proud of. you're proud to bring your friends and family to this building, because right now it's not that kind of a position. And, you know, when you explain that to people, they understand it a little more, but, you know, it can be tough. And like I said, this one, it's not always easy self-managing. I just like to let people know that, but, you know, you got a partner, like I got my wife, and, we lean on each other, and, sometimes it's tough, but, it is what it is. It's the name of the game, you know?
And you wouldn't have it any other way, right? You want to
No.
be in real estate. That's, you know, that's what it takes to be in real
You
estate.
know, and I like, and I wanted to say, Barry, because I've said that before, you know, and sometimes people might think that's a downer, right? But no, it's the truth. But you know, having mentioned what you just said, though, because I like to tell people, well, I wouldn't have it any other way. Yeah, because you know what? Do you know what time I have to wake up tomorrow morning? Whenever I want. You know, Monday morning, next Monday, I get to wake up whenever I want. I don't have to set the alarm if I don't want to. Sometimes we don't. I get to eat breakfast with my wife. We'll sit outside in the morning and enjoy coffee, read a book. You know, we'll put our schedules together so we can eat lunch together. We work together, you know, just about every day. So yeah, I wouldn't have it any other way. So those are the things you got to remind yourself, and that's what you're working towards. You know, and our next goal is to hire a maintenance guy, and then eventually, you know, a manager, and then her and I are going to be able to step back a little bit, and you know, do things and maybe just manage them a little bit more. That comes at a little higher unit count, but yeah, no, I wouldn't have it any other way. Yeah, I think we both did the same thing.
Yeah, very cool, very cool. Well, thanks for sharing that story, man. That's a really interesting deal and very interesting scenario, right? Getting to the 43rd day out of the 45 to find a property, and I'm happy you did. Congratulations. I'm hoping the same happens to me. Hopefully, it comes around a little bit. I'm in day 8 or 9 right now. I think day 9 now. So I got a little bit of time, but I'm still, you know, I was looking at 5 deals yesterday, looking at 2 or 3 today. You know, reaching out to as many people as I can. Yeah, but it completely feel the nervousness and the anxiousness of trying to find something, but we'll see. Hopefully it all works out. But thank you for sharing. Thank you for being on the show. Again, if people want to reach out to you, people want to get in touch, what's the best way for them to do so?
Again, warringtoncapital.com. There's a contact us. It'll tell you a little bit more about us and our investing. But if you want to follow some of the stuff I do, Instagram, Grant Warrington. I'm on Instagram, YouTube, Grant Warrington, TikTok, Grant Warrington. And I like to put content out there. You know, it's really for everybody, but it's the stuff that I had to kind of figure out. You know what I mean? It's the little things you don't think about until you own an apartment building and go, oh man, what kind of doorknobs am I going to put on here? What kind of air conditioning unit do I need to buy? What kind of locks should I put on my unit doors so people don't lock themselves out of their unit? Those are all little things we've either copied off of others or learned along the way. And that's kind of what I like to do for people that are, you know, kind of sitting there going, okay, what's next? I don't own a million units. I'm not just starting out, which is still good for you. But once you get in the game, those are the little things you got to kind of figure out. Like, okay, how do I do this? I never thought about that, you know?
Yeah. So it is very helpful. Like I said on the other interview, I really enjoy it. For someone that's me, that's not that handy, all these tips and tricks are really helpful. So I recommend anyone to check it out. But man, thank you so much. Thank you for taking the time. And I really appreciate this great 2-part series interview that we did.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it, man. I had a blast too. Thanks again, Barry.
Thank you.